Once upon a time, the royal court announced that the princess was looking for a husband. She would marry the man who could entertain her the best and make her laugh. The news spread like wildfire across the kingdom, reaching everyone from the wealthiest lords to the poorest farmers. Eventually, the rumor even reached the farthest corners of the land, where two brothers lived, both renowned for their wisdom and education. When they heard about the challenge, they didn't hesitate. They decided to compete for the princess's heart. The first brother was exceptionally intelligent. He spoke Latin as if he had been born with it and had an unmatched passion for medicine. In his free time, he practiced wood carving, and people often said he would do well anywhere in the world. The second brother was just as educated. He also spoke fluent Latin, but his true passion was law. He was known for his excellent care of horses, and his knowledge of legal matters was impressive. The two brothers constantly competed to prove to their father who was wiser and who would make the better husband for the princess. Their father, proud of their intelligence, decided to support them. He prepared two fine horses for their journey to the royal city so they could try to win the princess's hand. Just as the brothers were about to leave, a third brother appeared, one who was rarely mentioned. This was Silly Jack, as everyone called him. He wasn't as clever as his brothers, and people often made fun of him. "And where are you two off to, all dressed up so grandly?" Jack asked curiously. "Haven't you heard the royal proclamation? The whole kingdom is talking about it. We're going to entertain the princess, and whoever succeeds will marry her," the brothers replied. "Well, wait for me. I want to marry the princess too," Jack declared. The brothers just laughed and rode off without another word. But Silly Jack wasn't one to give up so easily. He ran to his father and begged for a horse. "A horse? For you? That would be a disgrace. Stay home and clean out the stables instead," his father said sternly. But Jack was determined. When he saw that his father wouldn't help him, he got creative. He jumped onto an old goat and set off on his journey. As he rode along, he sang cheerfully and spread joy everywhere he went. He also kept an eye out for anything that might amuse the princess. Meanwhile, his brothers traveled through the forest, silently pondering how best to make the princess laugh. They were convinced that their knowledge and education would help them succeed. "Hey! Here I am!" Jack suddenly called out, waving a dead mouse in the air. "I bet the princess will love this," he shouted enthusiastically. His brothers wrinkled their noses in disgust. "And what exactly do you plan to do with that, you fool?" they sneered. "The royal daughter has probably never seen a mouse up close before." Jack replied cheerfully. The brothers burst into laughter and ignored him. But Jack wasn't finished. Soon, he fished an old, rusty pot out of a stream. "This will be perfect for the royal kitchen," he exclaimed. Once again, his brothers laughed and encouraged him to take it along. Jack didn't stop there. Before long, he had also gathered a handful of mud. "This will make a fine sauce for dinner," he declared proudly. By the time they reached the royal city, a huge crowd of suitors had already gathered. Everyone was trying to amuse the princess in their own way. Some performed acrobatics, others told jokes, and some played instruments or sang. But no one could make the princess laugh. Each suitor who entered her chamber became nervous, stammered, or forgot what they wanted to say. One by one, she dismissed them all. When Jack's brothers had their turn, they fared no better. Despite their intelligence and confidence, the princess's piercing gaze made them lose all their composure. The first brother attempted to recite a Latin poem, but his nerves got the best of him, and he forgot the words. The second brother tried telling a joke about legal disputes, but his humor was so dry that the room fell into awkward silence. The princess simply shook her head and sent them away. Finally, it was silly Jack's turn. He marched into the royal chamber, riding his old goat, which looked around the grand hall as if it had lived there all its life. With a cheerful grin, he declared, "It's really warm in here. And such a beautiful place, too." The princess, watching him with amusement, replied, "Well, that's because the cooks are roasting chickens right next to us." "Perfect timing!" Jack exclaimed. "I've got a mouse with me, I can roast it right now." He pulled a dead mouse from his pocket and laughed as if it were the best thing that had ever happened to him. The princess raised an eyebrow but couldn't help smiling. "You can try," she said playfully. "But I don't have any pots for you to cook it in." "Oh, but I do," Jack said proudly, pulling out an old, battered pot with a hole in the bottom. He held it up like a treasure he had just unearthed. The princess giggled. "That's great, but you'll still need some sauce to go with your meal." She was curious to see what else he had up his sleeve. "Got that, too," Jack announced, reaching into his pouch and pulling out a handful of mud. "This is the finest sauce in the entire kingdom. I collected it fresh after yesterday's rain, it's smooth and rich." He examined the mud theatrically as if it were a rare delicacy. At that moment, the princess lost all composure. First, a small giggle escaped her lips, but soon she was laughing so hard that tears streamed down her face. She clutched her chair to keep from falling over, and the palace servants had to rush over with a jug of water. No one had ever made her laugh like that before. Royal scribes scrambled to write down every word, eager to document the moment so even common folk would hear of it. Still catching her breath, the princess finally managed to say, "You, sir, are a complete oddball." Then, with a bright smile, she added, "And I happen to like oddballs." Jack gave a deep, theatrical bow and replied, "Well, if you like oddballs, then we're a perfect match." When the laughter finally died down, the princess looked into Jack's eyes and asked, "Jack, what makes you the way you are?" Jack stroked his chin thoughtfully and said, "I grew up among simple folk, where every smile was worth its weight in gold. I learned that life isn't just about rules, it's about joy, laughter, and finding magic in the ordinary. So I live with my heart wide open, knowing that even the simplest days can be filled with wonder." The princess reached for his hand, her eyes shining. "With you, I feel like I'm living in the most wonderful fairy tale. That's why I'll marry you." And so, the foolish, quirky Jack, once mocked as a simpleton, became king. With his endless humor and wild ideas, he brought happiness and harmony to the kingdom. People adored him, and under his rule, even the dullest days became extraordinary. As for his brothers, well, they returned home empty-handed, bickering endlessly over which of them had been the bigger fool. Meanwhile, Jack and his princess lived happily ever after, in a kingdom where songs and laughter never faded. Because now, everyone knew, sometimes, the most unexpected fool can turn out to be the greatest hero. That's all for now, dear children. Upon a hill, not far from here, a goat with a bell would appear. Its gentle ring would softly say, "The story ends with the close of day. Good night, little ones, sweet dreams."